back to World Crisis Radio. Now, in our first hour, we reviewed this chilling pattern of events in the first 2 weeks of the year. And let me just recapitulate once again. John P. Wheeler's body found in a landfill near Wilmington, Delaware on December 31st. Former advisor to the top officials of the U.S. Air Force, Secretary of the Air Force, and top general guy somehow connected to the rogue B-52 case of August-September 2007. On January 6th, incendiary letters to Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley and the Secretary of Transportation of Maryland. January 8th, the Tucson shooting with all those victims. On January 10th, Tom DeLay gets a tough 3-year sentence plus 10 years of community service, sent to jail immediately. January 10th, Ashley Turton, important Capitol Hill lobbyist, married to the man who is the interface between the Obama White House and the House of Representatives, killed in a very strange, freakish accident, according to the Washington Post, a freakish accident. So from an odd prelude in the Wheeler case to the freakish accident of January 10th, and all of this, again, to suppress the centrifugal tendencies long enough to ram through draconian austerity and to suppress any illusions that these Tea Party people might have that they're going to be allowed to do what they want. It would seem that the ruling financier elite has no tolerance at all for that kind of thing. Now, we'll be following this obviously as time goes on. It may take more prodding, I think, is the idea. The international picture now coming into motion in the new year. Let's start with the London Economist. London Economist issue dated January 1st to 7th, right at the beginning of the year. Please not again. The threat of war in the Middle East, a pensive, troubled Obama with tanks rolling in the background. And the idea is essentially nothing new. It is a rehash of the situation which I detailed in articles on the threat of an attack on Iran, which I posted back in July, August, the preparation for an attack on Iran. And the idea here is that it's the missiles, it's the buildup since the Israeli defeat in the summer 2006 war, and the really the strategic failure of the Israeli-Gaza war of early 2009. We now have Hezbollah with reputedly an arsenal, according to the London Economist, of 50,000 missiles and rockets. And as we pointed out back in our broadcast last summer, it means that you have short-range ballistic missiles with conventional warheads that can be fired from, a certain amount of depth in Lebanon and reach the Israeli air bases in northern Israel. So you could go from a counter-value anti-city force to a strategy to a counter-force strategy. Try to get the Israeli Air Force on the ground, shut down their airfields. The idea now is that this is becoming a big threat, and in the accompanying article, turns out that Hamas was able to fire a Russian-made Kornet anti-tank missile at an Israeli tank in the Gaza area back in December, and that now you've got the fall of the Lebanese government. Now, this involves this United Nations Commission on the Hariri assassination. We know this was the one put into motion by the German policeman, the NATO agent, who had gone ahead and done the La Belle discotheque, and he was responsible then for the targeting of exclusively Syria. Now it turns out that they've recalibrated the report so that it's not Syria so much as Hezbollah. Hezbollah massively blamed in the Hariri assassination. Therefore, the Hezbollah Aoun bloc quit the government. Notice, it's not just a Shiite Hezbollah bloc, but it's the Shiites of Hezbollah and their political supporters of other faiths, I'm sure, or other denominations of Islam, along with General Aoun, the leading Maronite nationalist patriot on the scene. That's a single group, and they quit the government. Therefore, the Lebanese government has fallen, and the world is awaiting the delivery of this fake, discredited, hopelessly corrupt UN report. So no confidence in the UN report. And so what does this lead to, right? The reports from Lebanon are that some people think there's going to be a government more dominated by Hezbollah, and then the question arises, what will Netanyahu do about that? And you're getting into this area of a situation which is so chaotic and so degenerate, frankly, that it offers the possibilities for war, which individual players might not want, but which they seem to be blundering into. So that's the Middle East. Now, Sudan, the United States, of course, has backed the referendum in southern Sudan. And the goal, of course, is to dismember and partition. It's the Bernard Lewis plan on a large scale, as we've said, right? The U.S. goal is to have 3 Iraqs, 5 or 6 Irans, many Lebanons, Turkey carved, Egypt carved, Sudan carved into 2 parts. This has been a British project for about 100 years, like to split the Muslim north of Sudan from the animist and Christian south. And the impetus for this has now been given by the fact that there's oil largely located in southern Sudan. The Chinese are the big beneficiaries of that oil, and therefore the U.S. wants to kick the Chinese out of southern Sudan. And the goal then is to have a puppet government in the south, I guess in Juba, and then have that become the means of kicking the Chinese out. So it's not clear what the result of this referendum is. I think we should really withhold judgment. All the imperialist news organs are saying, "Oh, it's a foregone conclusion that the South will vote for independence." Not so clear, because it's got to be a vote of the majority of the southern population, a lot of whom have taken refuge in Khartoum in the Muslim north, as I saw when I was there in the mid-'90s. They fled the fighting in the south. A lot of it stoked up by Uganda, right? By Museveni, the darling of the British and the U.S. So that's a dangerous one. Tunisia, right? The government of Ben Ali, which has now been in power for 23 years. When Bourguiba died, left office in 1986-87, Ben Ali came in. He is he's been there almost as long as Mubarak in Egypt, and probably getting rid of Ben Ali on the part of the U.S. and the British, if that's what it is a prelude to some move on Mubarak and perhaps even Saudi Arabia. So that's another one. And we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.